Hey everybody, this is Captain Yeet here with you for another My Hero Academia Season 7 episode review. This is going to be Season 7, Episode 17, titled Hopes. So, let's get into it. So, the episode starts off with a flashback, and we cut over to Lady Nagant in the hospital trying to claw her way out because she's still pretty banged up from that explosion. Obviously, an explosion happened from the inside. She's still pretty banged up from it, but she's hearing about the war and everything, so she wants to help out because Deku, she kind of brought her over back to the hero side, telling her that there's still a hero's heart pounding inside of you, and that really got to her. Obviously, the doctors are trying to tell her to get back into bed. She's pretty banged up, so her moving around could open up her stitches and she could die. And we get a better look at her scars on her face. I remember I mentioned this last week that she has scars on her face, and of course, it's a bit too bright, so you can't really see it too well. But if you watch it yourself or just look it up, she has some scars all over her face because, well, like I said, like two times she got blown up from the inside. So obviously that hurt a little bit. And then we come over to Rocklock. Rocklock comes over and gives her a cell phone that keeps her updated on what's going on and where everybody is. He says that he'll take full responsibility if she does anything evil, but if she really wants to help because Azuko Madoya said something to inspire her, then hey, he believes her. Then we cut back into real time where she shoots the bullet that blew off Sagaraki's hand last episode. Then she shoots another bullet that hit him in the head. And then she starts to bleed because her stitches are starting to open up again. But she's obviously like, I can't lose. I cannot give up right now. He needs me. I have one more shot in me. And she starts to think about how all the bad things that she was doing back in the day for that agency. I think it was the agency that Hawks was a part of, right? Before he, well, he didn't like quit it, but you know, the agency that he was with, the agency that he was with to infiltrate the League of Villains, how they sort of took away her aspirations of being a good person and a hero. We get the really nice scene of her younger. I think based off the uniform she's wearing, I think it's supposed to be when she was like probably at UA, right? She was at UA because it looks like the school uniform that they wear. How they have aspirations and stuff for. I say aspirations for becoming a hero and doing good. Then eventually we cut back over to Shigaraki and she blows off his other hand with a bullet. And after that, she's done. She falls over and she's not bleeding out, but after her stitches open up, it hurt her bad. It hurt her real, real bad. So she falls over. And then we get the opening. Excuse me. After the opening, we cut over to well, make sure yeah. Okay, so we cut over to All for One in the Vestige world, and I wish I could play it on the TV for you guys, but I don't want to get in trouble. But it was just so funny to me. That man was spazzing. I mean, he was spazzing like hard. He goes, "You garbage, you trash! How dare you betray me? You want to kill people back in the day, and now you want to be a hero? You ungrateful!" He was going crazy in the Vestige world, and then we see fingers starting to pop out of his mouth, and it's Shigaraki. And it's revealed that Shigaraki, he knew this whole time. I mean, yeah, he even knew last season because he was even bringing that up that I didn't want to be a pawn. But he knew this whole time that All for One was just manipulating him to get his hatred up so he'd be able to take over his body and to take one for all. He knew like he was manipulating him and trying to push his subconscious down and take control of him, and he hated that. He didn't really want to go along with giving him his dream. That really isn't what he wanted. So he put a little piece of himself deep, deep down inside his subconscious, was like a little tinkle personality, and put his own personality inside of it. Made sure it didn't do too much so all for one would notice it. And now it's starting to bloom out of himself. And then we see that Sakuraki, he's able to push the all for one personality down and bring his personality back up. So now he has full control over his own body. It's not a mixture of both of their personalities. It's not just all for one. He's finally is him. He's finally himself again. Like, finally I'm myself. And Deku, after Lady Nagant, got after Lady Nagant shot Shigaraki 3 times, he was able to get his second wind, and he runs over, grabs Shigaraki, and jumps off of the UA fortress. Because well, Aizawa and what's his name, Monoma, now for the count because of all the twice clones. And he can use his quirks again. It's too dangerous to be here, so I have to move our battle to somewhere else. We hear Shigaraki while they're falling out the sky, and he's yelling at not Tokoyami, Korigiri to teleport him over to All for One. And when he says that, obviously Korigiri's supposed to do what he says, but he just starts glitching. Not glitching like he's a computer, but he starts going crazy. Because the Korigiri part wants to save Shigaraki, but then the Surakumo part starts to come out, and both like sides of his head is starting to fight against each other. So he's like, "Save Shigaraki! No, save my friends! Who am I?" Oh, like he starts going crazy. So he's just stuck in this one spot, just going crazy. He doesn't really know what to do right now because of everything that's happening. And Shigaraki also reveals to Deku that he wants to destroy everything that's attached to that house because it was a combination of All for One making his childhood a mess, but it was also just that house in general. Like the people that didn't save him, his mom that didn't speak up, his whole family didn't speak up while he was getting beat by his dad. It's just a whole combination of things. So everything that's associated with that house, he wants to destroy. That's his dream. Obviously, Deku says, "I can't let you do that, but I'm not going to pretend that I didn't see a little kid crying inside of you in the Vextus world." And we get this dope shot of Deku holding Sagaraki's hands down with Black Whip, and Sagaraki's face is just blacked out, and all you can see is his eyes just glowing in the darkness of his face. Like that was a dope shot. This is a really dope shot. I love this. And now they're on ground level. They're out the UA fortress. They're on ground level. So now, they can just do what they want. Obviously, it's still pretty bad for him to use his decay there. But there was a lot. There's not really anybody around in the area for miles where they are now. There was a lot of people on the fortress. So, he decays the fortress, a lot of people die. It's a bit better if he does it, if he is able to touch the ground. It's around here for miles. There's nobody here besides him. So we cut back over to Gentle, and Gentle's holding up the UA fortress, but his power is not starting to give out. But the UA fortress, it's huge. It's a gigantic thing. So obviously it's very it's very, very heavy. So he doesn't know how much longer he's going to be able to hold this thing up. But Robert tells Gentle that she almost got the engine back up and running, so just wait a few more minutes. And Gentle says, "I could have sworn I saw the young lad, Deku, fall out of the sky off to the side. Did he know that I was here and he entrusted me to keep it afloat?" He goes, "Nah, there's no way he could have known that I'm here holding up the thing. But I mean, hey, it's whatever. There's no cameras, no lights. I'm just doing this for me and because, well, this is the right thing to do. This is good. It's just, I'm just doing this because it's the right thing to do." But then he sees a flash off to the side, and there's those business course students that's at the bottom that was recording everything, and they're recording Gentle. And Gentle's like, "Hey, you guys have to get out of here. Like, it's very dangerous. You need to move." And they just start recording. He goes, "What are you doing? Get out of here." And they tell Gentle to shut up. They said that this is their part of being a hero, to record what's happening so they can put it out to the public so everybody can know that the heroes were putting in work. I mean, they should have knew that beforehand. But that little press conference they had after the first war, there was that one lady that was like, "You guys are heroes. You guys should have won because you're heroes. What were you guys doing? How could you lose?" Like Anchamakia killed a lot of people, rampaging through like it was like 5+ cities, like coming from Gunga Mountain to where All for One was. I mean, not All for One, where Sigaraki was. He was like, he ran through like 5+ cities, hung a lot of people, yada yada. In my mind, I was spazzing. I was like, did you not see the scars that everybody have? Like before this press conference could even take place, and Devil was in the hospital for like a week or so, right? I'm like, it wasn't putting in work. Do you not see their bodies all banged up? Like this is why. So we're gonna record and tell everybody that you guys were actually putting your lives on the line. Maybe people should already know this, but we're gonna show everybody that you're putting your lives on the line. This isn't gonna be like the last war. People will criticize you and blame everything on you. They're gonna see exactly what you did for them today. And all the Gentle understands that, and he goes, "All right, you can do. I mean, hey, record what you need to, man. Like I understand." And then we come back over to La Brava, and she finally getting the engine back up and running, and she just looks so happy because he hacks into. Well, they were already recording Gentle, but she hacks into their phones to really zoom in on Gentle so everybody can see that Gentle was being a hero today and helping out in the war so he can get the praise that he deserves. And obviously, the Brava's really happy about that. And she, look at this. She looks so happy. Like, you found it so funny. I don't know if you can see it, but she has the heart eyes and the swirls. Like, she was so happy to do this. She was so happy to do this. The engines, they come back online. Gentle, even when the engines do come back online, Gentle is still using his quirk to hold up the UA fortress. It's a bit easier to do it now because if you hear rain, yeah, it's going. You hear that? It's going crazy outside. It's raining like crazy. It's, anyway, um, it's like it's going crazy. I don't know if you can hear that. It's raining in my hero too, which is funny. Anyway, the UA Fortress, he still has his elasticity stuff holding up the UA Fortress. It's a lot easier now with the engines back on, but Gento's still holding up because they did say that a lot of stuff got damaged after that huge explosion Zagoraki did. So probably not at like 100%. So just in case, Gento, yeah, he sort of just stayed there and hold it up just in case. We cut over to um, President Mike and Aizawa. A ton of Twice clones came through that portal, and a few of them grabbed both of them and threw them off. And Kaminari sees this, he goes, Aizawa, President Mike! No!" When he starts yelling, and a bunch of electricity starts to surge around him. And then we see Korigiri make a warp gate, grab them both, and disappear. And then when we come back over to when we come back over to Kaminari, all the Twice clones are gone. So obviously he like released this electricity and destroy them all. It would have been kind of cool to actually see that, but yeah, that kind of sucks. So I'm always kind of confused because he's like, oh, I guess he just saved them. I wonder why he saved them. And then Manly like, yeah, I guess he did save them, or he probably just took them out because, well, them not being around would be really good, so he's not using a racer on them. We don't really know for sure because we have no idea where they went. And then we cut over to the next scene. But when we get that, we get a really dope. I love this, man. So we get the character card for this episode. And the character cards is Gentle and Hawks. Like Gentle's like just so cool. Okay, Gentle. I don't know, like this pose, like he was looking dope. He was looking so dope. I really like it. And then we get Hawks. I think this is a new one for Hawks. It looks a little different than the ones we had before, but I can't really tell because I need like a side by side. But it looks kind of the same as the ones we had before. But I don't know. I don't know. I gotta see it side by side. So we cut back over to Hawks' group fighting against all those Twice clones and All for One. So all the Twice clones are just going ham on everybody, and all the heroes are starting to fight against them, but there's just too many. They're starting to get overran. All for One is starting to fly over to Sigaraki because he could tell in the vestige world what just happened with Sigaraki pushing his personality down and bringing his back up to light. He says that whenever he gets to Sigaraki, he's going to put his quirk or his main quirk, or the all for one quirk, inside of Shigaraki. And when that happens, he's not going to be able to do what he just did. His personality is going to get pushed down, or they're going to mix into a new one, and he'll be able to take over his body, which is good for him because that's what he wanted to do in the first place. And that was really good for him because, well, his body is on a time clock. It's constantly rewinding until he's nothingness. I mean, he is like hundreds of years old, so he has some time. But him being held up here of all these heroes isn't really helping that. So he needs to hurry up and get back over to Shigaraki so he can swap bodies with him. Then we see Hawks. Obviously, All for One just done so much evil stuff. He just cannot wait to kill him and he gets to bring a brighter future for the newer generation. And it's a pretty cool scene where he throws one of his swords at All for One to make him dodge. And then he comes up with another sword to slice him in the throat. And then All for One goes, "You have little idea just how much the winds blow in my favor." And he does this. He reaches out his hand and flicks the air. And then the bottom half of Hawks' body just twists and snaps into nothingness. Obviously, everybody's shocked, especially Tokoyami. Because Tokoyami, he was flying like right behind the Hawks to help him. The Hawks was like, a good chunk ahead of him because he's really fast. But obviously his jaw just drops like, what is happening? Should have died. I mean, look at this. The bottom half of his body just swirls and into nothingness. Like that was like his mentor too. He is just dumbfounded. But then the Hawks, he turns around and his eyes get all sparkly. He looks like pause, but he looks all handsome. He goes, "Ouchie, I was flying a bit too fast." And Tokuyami's like, "What in the world is happening?" He's just very confused. This was funny in the manga, and it was also funny here, especially in the dub. He goes, "Ouchies, I was flying a bit too fast." His face. I didn't think the actually animated his face like that. That was so funny. He was like, "What is happening?" Like, what in the world? Anyway, all for one, he swipes his hand, and a bunch of mist just dissipates, and it's revealed that Cammy, she's here, and I forgot his name. I honestly forgot his name. It's the meatball guy. Tammy, the meatball guy, and Inuyasha. All of them are here to help out in the fight against All for One. The meatball guy, he explains. This is we get a really good close up shot of Cammy. The meatball guy, he explains that they were supposed to help out him and everybody else at his school, so Keksu High. They're supposed to help out with the evacuees, but the evacuees like shipment never came. But then we started hearing about All for One and all the chaos going on here, so we decided, like, hey, let's help out with them. And he also explains that his dad was a prison guard at. He didn't specifically say at what prison, so it could have been Tartarus, or it could have been at any of the other prisons that the jailbreakers broke out of. But his dad was there, and when the jailbreakers broke out, he died because they were just going crazy. And obviously, he wants to get vengeance for his dad, but he's not going to let that vengeance blind him because that's exactly what All for One wants. But Tsuketsu High is here to help out. And we get two really dope shots of all of them, especially when Inuyasha he does a rebuttal to what All for One just said, how like the wind blows in my favor. And Inuyasha goes, "How dare you say something like that? When I'm the one that controls the wind, because it's quirk is wind." So that was really dope. I really liked when he said that. Here we go. Here's the really dope shot when he was like, Saketsu High is here. You ever see Inuyasha using his one power to make gigantic vortexes that sweep up the twice clones? Now, there's still a lot of twice clones running around. But with Inuyasha doing stuff like this, yeah, it's helping them out a lot. It's helping them out a whole lot. Like, thank goodness. When Pixie Bob sees this, she goes, okay, now that Inuyasha is like giving, grabbing a huge chunk of the Toys clones and throwing them to the side, everybody with long range attacks shoot at All for One, and everybody's just doing a huge bombardment at All for One, just lighting him up. I mean, like if you get too close to him, he could touch you and steal your quirk. So just light him up, you know, light my boy, which was good. That was really good. I mean, look at this. They're going crazy on him. Like, I mean, this episode and next episode. It's gonna get so crazy. I love it. I love it so much. So All for One, obviously he's blocking most of these attacks. And then we see she calls into Sukuruchi. Yeah, I remember his name. I keep forgetting his name, but all my best friend in the police force. He calls up Sukuruchi and he thanks him for the backup because he could have just died just then. But he goes, "Hey, don't thank me. Those guys were already on the way before I even tried to call them in. So that's not really all me, everything's all hunky dory." So All for One gets mad and he makes like this he makes like these spike thingies on his back, and they get these little purple light balls on top of him. And he goes, usually you won't send the army here to fight me because I could steal you guys' quirk. But I can tell the fact that you are sending the army now, you guys are getting desperate. He obviously doesn't have time for this because he's on the clock, and he makes this huge wave of yellow energy and black lightning. It shoots it at all the heroes, and it blows some of them back, but most of them's able to somewhat tank it, and some quirks can like make a barrier. So we see Sabretooth. He goes, hey, All for One's just trying to blow us back. We need to keep up the pressure, get behind a sealed hero that can make some sort of barrier. And if you can't, just endure it and keep it moving. We cannot let up the pressure on All for One. We cannot let him get away. All for One starts to say a pretty cold line. He goes, "You guys have never experienced me in my prime. You guys have never seen just how dark the world was back in the day when I ruled R. It was just desperation and despair and just evilness everywhere. Let me show you a taste of what it used to be like when I was in my heyday." I'm like, "Ugh." He was going crazy like that. That was a pretty cold line. I like that line that he said. And it was also I don't. Oh, here it is. Okay, when they were all like jumping him, and Sokiyoshi was explaining they were like on the way anyway. There was this really cool shot of Inuyasha that I really like, and here it is. It was really cool. I like that. I like that. So anyway, while he's saying that, Inuyasha tells him to shut up. He goes, we already heard about how bad it was back in the day because in school they give us like the main big points of you being so evil, but Toko Todoroki is my best bud, and I can see him going through everything with his dad, and seeing both of them get through everything and keep moving up is inspiring me. Is inspiring me to keep it moving in the fight against you. and he shoots another wave of yellow black lightning energy at Inuyasha, and he's able to tank it and make a vortex around him. And well, I'll get into it at the end of the episode. I could have sworn it. Maybe it happens next episode, yeah, because there was something that happened in the manga, or something that they said in the manga, and they don't say it here. So maybe they say it next episode. If they don't, then I'll bring it up because I'm like, I thought they said something, but if they don't, like I said, if they don't say it next episode, then I'll bring it up. But if they do, then obviously I'll just say it because it's part of the review. So Hawks, he's like really inspired of everything going on, and he's happy that this is just another stepping stone into the future that he wants for the next generation, where heroes have too much time on their hands. And then he starts to fly over to All for One to cut him with his sword. And then All for One looks at his eyes, and he goes, "Those eyes, they're not dwindling with hope." Well, actually, I can kind of see they are dwindling. All you eyes are dwindling with hope. Obviously, this situation, even though you're jumping me, it still has a lot of despair around it. You guys just have tiny embers of hope flickering inside of you. And because you got some backup now, you're trying to throw gasoline up there. But I'm not going to let that happen. Obviously, he wants to kill everybody here. And while he's saying that, we see two gigantic black eyes just form around him. And he goes, like he actually gets kind of scared when he sees that. Well, at first he just feels it. He goes, "What in the world?" He goes, "Oh, this feeling. I felt it before." He feels kind of nervous, like, "What is happening?" He goes, "I felt the same feeling back then." And then he remembers when Tokoyami was coming in for that Black Abyss like punch when they first started fighting him, like the first few episodes. And Tokoyami starts to explain that how there he talks about the darkness that he doesn't even rule anymore. He's the one that rules them now. And he also brings up that All Might said that All for One couldn't steal Endeavor's quirk because just touching his flames, you can't steal his quirk by touching his flames like All for One mentioned. He has to touch his physical body. That's why they specifically chose Tokoyami as one of the heroes to fight against him. He says that there's a big storm happening right now. That's why it's raining. So it's covering up the sun and any little bit of light. And you could say, like, hey, the flames are making a big light source, but with the wind going crazy and everything, it's starting to dim down the lights. So now he can fully go out and go against All for One. And he does total release Light of Boulder, which is his dark shadow, which is it's like his dark shadow monster form, but it's gigantic now. Like it is huge. And then he also says, "Hey, let me give you a tailwind." And he shoots like a wind vortex around his face. I mean not around his face, around his fist, and punches All for One straight into the ground. And All for One did try to make a shield, but he breaks it. He breaks the shield and slams him right into the ground in this super dope shot. I'm like, okay. Like that was nasty, man. They did a good job too, because in the manga it looked really good. And I'm like, oh, I guess in the anime they're gonna have to like get rid of some of the detail and stuff. Cause they do that sometimes. Sometimes in the manga, it's like a lot of detail on somebody's face or on their scars or something. And that I mean, it's still really good in the anime, but they have to tone it down a little bit because I guess it'll be kind of hard to animate. But now it looks really dope. That looks so dope. And then we get the credits. But there's actually after credit scene this time. It's not the actually after credit scene this time. So the after credit scene starts off with somewhat of a flashback where when Toga started to make a ton of the clones, she made some Dabi clones, Shigaraki clones, and All for One clones actually. And they try to use their powers, but it doesn't work. And Pixie Bob makes like a huge earth wall and knocks them away and disintegrates them. And then Suyu, Muraka, and Jiro all start running together in a really cool scene. And Suyu starts to mention that, okay, this is just a theory. I'm just spitballing here. But this situation is pretty bad. But it could be really worse. If she made like a ton of Dobbies or a ton of Sigarakis, we would have been done for. But see, Nat, all we see are twice clones. So that means she doesn't really love them like that. So in order to change the not the way of the fight, but in order to change the outcome of this fight or flip it on its head, a big change of emotions could change all these twice clones. And Umuraka goes, so that means Hogan must be, and she starts to look in a general direction. And I mean, and Tsuyu also explains that, when we already know this, when Twice makes a clone of somebody, they can use that quirk instantly. He can make a Dabi clone Boom, it can shoot fire just like him. And the only difference is its durability. Other than that, it can use the exact same kind of firepower. Obviously, that's really bad. Making like 100 Dobbies or 100 Sigarakis, that's bad. You would have lost the fight instantly. With Toga, she can use your quirk when she transforms into you, but she has to really, really like you. That's the only caveat. And she made the Sigaraki and Dobby and All for One clones, and they can't use their powers. And we cut over to Toga, and she's really confused. She goes, "Why can't the clones I make of other people use their powers? Jin was able to do it. Why can't I?" She goes, I don't hate Shigaraki or Dabi. I actually do kind of like them, but I guess it's not enough likeness. And I guess that makes sense. Like, she's not, I mean, she's tight with everybody. Like she said, like, she likes them, but not as much as Jean. Like, they were tight. Like, they were goofing off all the time. Like, those two were like, they had a good bond. That as much as everybody else. And then, wasn't that the last thing of this? Yeah, the very last shot was just her like contemplating like, why can't this work? What's wrong with me? And she just keeps saying that she wants to kill all the heroes. And then we get the like the credit thing for the next episode, and that was it. So yeah, that really surprised me because I was I watched it on Crunchyroll and done. And I go to Hulu because it's a bit easier for me to like click through the episode on Hulu. And when I was doing it, I realized that when the episode ended, I was like, wow, that's a really big chunk for the critics. I guess the critics is like really long this time. So I started going to the critics and I clicked play, and then it started to show the scene I was just talking about. I'm like, wait a second, it's an after credit scene. They haven't done this in like the last 12 episodes. Like, they haven't done this in a while. So I'm like, oh, you're gonna watch this now. Okay. I was really confused, like, what is going on? Why is the credit so long? That was kind of funny. But anyway, that's the end of the episode. So, like, share, and subscribe. See you all later. Thank you all for watching. I think all of that being wonderful human beings, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye. All right. Oh, it didn't it didn't click off. I was finna turn off my light.